Manchester United 2, Tottenham 0. Now, this was a well-earned victory for Manchester United. Irrespective of the red card, it is no less than United deserved. There are some interesting tactical insights in this game. Let's dive into it. Now, there were no surprises either side as far as the lineup were concerned. Both sides put the best thing they had available to them forward. Only on the occasion that Tottenham in this game frequently moved into a back five when they had to defend, like in this occasion. Because United has control of the ball and are established in attack. And then what would usually happen and what we saw for most of the game is Tottenham dropping into a 5-3-2. And by the way, all this is before the red card. Most of this analysis will be about the first half and before the red card, because I think that was where the main part of the game was actually played. Going to a 5-3-2 or sometimes a 5-2-3. And the goal of this is simple. As for everything that goes into a setup like this, is to crowd the middle as much as they can, force the opponents to go wide. And then when the opponent eventually rotates the ball out wide, they can sort of double up on the opponent's wingers. If not, at least create a numerical overload, a defensive overload either side of the pitch. And Tottenham, to an extent, did this properly. But in the very same way, though, when United try to build out high up inside their own half, Tottenham would look to crowd that middle with 4 players. Just sort of stay around United's double pivot to make sure they cannot progress through them. And then hoping to force United to go wide. It's easier to defend out wide when you're in this 5-3-2 shape or 5-2-3 shape. But once United goes out wide, then they try to come out, press United 1 versus 1, and try to be more aggressive in the press. But I think what it does then is force United into mistakes like this, or force United into sort of going long with the ball. But United on their own also, and again, this is something that I was impressed with from Michael Carrick, as opposed to the Amorim days, that even United on their own showed a lot of character and tried to press high up the pitch when Tottenham tried to build that from the back as well. Look at this particular phase of play. This is a typical Tottenham sort of build-up. And what United tried to do was, you would notice this run from Mbeumo. Mbeumo will start out wide, try to curve his run to block the passing lane to this defender over here. And then once he does that now, they sort of force Tottenham to go one way. And then as soon as Tottenham goes that way, they immediately then try to apply the pressure and press 1 versus 1, forcing Tottenham often to go long. And again, when Tottenham goes long, what you would usually notice is that United are able to create a 3 versus 2 or a 4 versus 3 in that part. So United easily could win the first ball, win the second ball, and be on the attack again. Look at another example of it. Again, another Tottenham build-up trying to utilize the goalkeeper as an extra man. And what you would notice again is the same kind of pressing where Mbeumo curves his run, cuts the passing lane to the defender on the far side with the hope of forcing Tottenham to go one way. And then once Tottenham passes the ball out to their left-hand side, immediately United starts to press them 1 versus 1. That is usually the pressing trigger. And then United would go hunting for the ball and go after them. And on this occasion, Ahmad was the one who was quickly able to get back and close, cut off the passing lane, and then forced Tottenham to retreat on this occasion. Now, there was a little bit of back and forth between both of them, especially in that first half before the red card. I don't think that there was a lot happening in the game. Both teams pretty much had a very balanced game. But what particularly caught my attention in this game, especially before the red card, was how United looked to break Tottenham down and actually try to get a goal. One way is baiting Tottenham into a press, act as if they're almost beating out from the back, take the ball in, attract Tottenham forward, then play the ball long and try to create numerical overload or equality high up the pitch. This is what I'm talking about. In this phase of play, United are trying to build out from the back, and then Tottenham have committed 5 players into that press to match United's build up. But of course, United are building up with the goalkeeper as an extra man. But what you would notice here is that United would act as if they're actually trying to play out of that press. But the goal is to bait Tottenham forward, have them commit extra players forward. And then, in fact, some of United's players would also drop deep. Like in this occasion now, Cunha has dropped deep into the build-up, just simply to attract pressure. But once they've baited Tottenham forward, they can immediately then launch the ball forward. And once the ball goes forward, like in this occasion, it's this 1v1 at the back between Ahmad and Udogie. And then you can see that it's almost 3 versus 3 on this attack. But yes, on this occasion, though, Udogie had to commit that foul because Ahmad was getting away from him. Now, this was one method that United used. I think I spotted it 2 or 3 times in the first half. But I want to say overall, there is something specific that Michael Carrick did in this game that I think that is becoming a pattern for United, because I did spot it in the Fulham game, even if I did not analyze that game. This is what I'm talking about. Now, United just took a throw-in in this part of the pitch. I need you to keep an eye on how many Manchester United players are on that particular part of the pitch. Now, I could easily count one, two, three, four, five, six or seven players at that part of the pitch. Now, initially, when I saw this, I thought it was because they took a throw in, so they had to move everybody there. But just watch this cleverly, though. When the ball comes out wide to Diogo Dalot on this edge of the pitch now, what you would notice is that as Dalot is driving forward, look at the amount of space in front of him where there was no defender covering. And then if you just go up front a little bit, Udogie is there. Look at the space between Udogie and his center back, Romero. The reason why that space is there is because Ahmad is somewhere just out of your screen here that you can't see him yet, but he's just there. He has put Udogie out of that position and created that gap that Dalot is able to run into and then puts the ball into the middle for this shot that United had. Now, I saw that. My assumption was that that was because it was a throw-in. They merged everybody. But look at it again in another phase of play. Now, this is United on the ball, trying to engineer another build-up. Now, I want you to keep on a few movements of players here. First of all, is Bruno Fernandes going infield, moving into this space, if you could see him. Bruno Fernandes runs into this gap. And then you then had Casemiro basically running into that gap, almost positioning himself to become a central striker. Now, stick with me on this one because there's a method to this madness. Now, as he positions himself there, still in that build-up now, what you would notice is on one part of the pitch, United have 5 players surrounding Tottenham players. 5 players playing very close to each other, very compact. What they can do in this situation now is that they can quickly make those one-touch rapid exchange of passes that if you observe United carefully this season, under Carrick, it has been the common phenomenon, that one-touch quick exchange of passes. Remember Douglas' goal against Arsenal? It was that one-touch passing sequence that led to the opening for that shot. But now, what has happened here now is this. Bruno Fernandes has positioned himself in the center of the box. So has Casemiro. And then look at Dalot here, out wide, in acres of space. What you are not seeing now is Ahmad is somewhere out of your screen. Very, very wide, with acres of space as well. But because United have compressed players in this part of the pitch now, it forces Tottenham to also want to squeeze into that area to be able to create at least a numerical equality or a numerical superiority since they are defending. But what happens then is that once United are able to rapidly exchange passes the way they do here, before this ball could, I think Cunha tried to play this ball over the top. Ahmad is visible now. Look at the amount of space that Ahmad has. The reason why Ahmad could have this space now is because Casemiro has taken this position and forced Udogie to leave him and come infield to defend. And then there is Diogo Dalot here as well, who could also have made a run there to double up on Udogie. This was a wayward pass. It went out for a goal kick. But watch the same sequence of play again now. And it was this third time that I now discovered that this is something that United are actually trying to do on purpose and working on. Now, this is another Manchester United. Keep an eye out on Bruno Fernandes again. Bruno Fernandes is carefully running to position himself once again in that central striker position. The players who have made this particular arrangement now are a little bit different. On this occasion now, you have Bruno Fernandes up the pitch and you have Ahmad in taking up those 2 striking positions. And then out of the screen, somebody who you cannot see now is Dalot. Dalot is far out there. Remember, in the last phase of play that we just looked at, it was Ahmad who was wide in that position. And then you had Dalot here in defense. But it has rotated now. Different players, but same idea. It's the same move that they are making. What you look at here now, it's Casemiro behind with a lot of space. Ahmad is infield, has taken a defender with him. And then you had Dalot very wide. I think Udogie stayed with Dalot on this occasion because Ahmad did not really stay tight on this central defender. But what you would look at again is United compressing that part of the pitch. There are 5 players around the ball in that part of the pitch. And what those 5 players want to do now is this rapid, quick exchange of passes between them. Is that one-touch passing movement between them, and then they're able to engineer space such that had Cunha decided to spray this ball out wide as he did in the first instance, in the one we just watched, where he played a bad pass. Look at the amount of space that Dalot has out wide to work with. And then you could also have Casemiro here, who could actually drop to double up, to help him double up on that area as well. But he had a chance to take a shot here, and he took a shot. You get the pattern I'm trying to point out here. Now, look at a similar sequence again. Less obvious, but still the same idea. Of course, Tottenham are in their usual 5-2-3 shape, trying to force United to go wide, compress the middle of the pitch. Now, as we've seen in the previous 2 times again, United would put players on that part of the pitch to try to create a small overload, make sure these players are sitting close to each other. On this occasion now, you can see it's the same 5 players on one part of the pitch again. And notice the position of Dalot on this occasion. Now, initially, Ahmad is in your screen, just right here. You can see him. But he has now taken a position. He has run out of the screen. He is going out wide now to stretch Tottenham. And then this is Bruno Fernandes stepping forward into that, almost looking like a number 9 role there. Now, what happens again now is that you still have 5 United players on that part of the pitch, forcing Tottenham to compress, to defend narrow again. And then the movement from Bruno Fernandes now, moving infield into that central striker role, has also forced Destiny Udogie now to go with him, to force him out there. And remember, Ahmad is out wide and in a lot of space again. And even on this occasion, Dalot immediately spots the amount of gap that is left there, and he runs forward to join Dalot on the other side to create an overload, to create a 2 versus 1 against Udogie. And United engineered a chance there. So what I'm seeing from Michael Carrick is trying to engineer space by compressing one part of the pitch and then leaving two people free on the other end, such that when the ball is rotated out to those people, they can either have a 1 versus 1 or even completely free with a lot of space in front of them. I think Sesko's goal in this game, the second goal that United scored, was almost similar to this. I don't have a clip of that goal, unfortunately, but it's United being able to compress the pitch one way, and then when they whip the ball across, they could have a 2 versus 2 on the other end of the pitch, on the other edge of the box, for Sesko to actually tap home. In all, it was a good victory for Manchester United. I think that United are back under Carrick, and I am backing United to finish in the Champions League places in the table. Of course, tactical analysis, this is what we do here. If you enjoyed videos like this, hit the follow button, hit the subscribe button, like and share, support the channel. See you on the next one.